And we're going live, and we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Every Point's a Winner here for 2025. We are now talking about the review post-stats of round 25, and wasn't there some cracking tries scored, some great results as far as our tips are concerned. Hopefully you followed us here on Every Point's a Winner because we had two really big wins and for small amount of outlays. I've been asked to do this by a few of the tipsters and the punters that follow us here on Every Point's a Winner for the anytime try scorer. These are some of the collects. We had Katoni Staggs at $2.30. He was our lead banker. And then we got a nice double there with Taylor May into Jeremiah Nane. That was a nice one. It was a bonus bet too, and we picked up nearly $20 for that one. Tom Dearden, we picked up at $3.10. He's been one of our prolific try scorers here, and we got him at about $6.50 on him. Our bankers were usually back, and then we have the doubles. But Jeremiah Nanai, because he was our other standout, he was nice odds there at $2.75. Taylor May was also $2.60. I thought would get value there. Had a few ordinary results in the Parramatta game, but we did pick up Josh Adokar at $2.10. I thought he was way over the odds. We picked up another double here, Simi Sasagi and KO Weeks. You'd remember these from the Thursday night. And the three-legger here was a cracker. It was a $51 result for a $1.50 outlay. It was Casey McLean into Ethan Strange and right on full time in the Golden Point, KO Weeks scoring that amazing try set up by Ethan Strange. So that was a cracker. $1.50, and we got odds of 34-1. And two of those, Ethan Strange and Casey McLean, were our main two bankers. And that's all. If we can try and do that and give you the 4-1, 2-1, 5-1, you're going to win all day, all weekend. Simi Sasagi, we got him at $4.75. He was way over the odds. He's a real prolific try scorer. Whether he gets the full game is another question, though. Ethan Strange has been out of his skin. KO Weeks, we all had good win bets on him. Another two-legger we picked up was Casey McLean into KO Weeks. Another bonus bet we had was Casey McLean into Ethan Strange. Because, as I said, once we get those two lead bankers, it's lead banker 1 into number 3, 4, 5, and possibly reserve, which was Simi Sasagi, because one of our selections didn't get a run, so we moved up Simi Sasagi. And we got, as you see, three trebles there and many collects. Just going back to the bet slip here. But we'll get on with the important stuff. But they were two of our big collects, and we had a nice collect off the Canberra game and also the last game. It was West Tigers, and West Tigers. We had both the bankers going over there, and of course, one of them was Tommy Dearden, and he didn't let us down at all. We did require Gerald Skelton, but he didn't get the ball. Twice it went to the other winger, and unfortunately we did not collect there with our three. We had 2 3-leggers and 1 4-legger, both relying on Gerald Skelton, but we got the other trebles and the other doubles. So we had a really good weekend on the small outlay punt here at Every Point's a Winner. Hopefully you if you want to go back and watch it, any of the tipping shows from last week, just go to live and go down and you'll see the selections there if you want to double check them. But my tab is just probably something like $180 up from last week. So there you go. We had a really good win with those two games that we stood out. But anyway, let's get on to the thing why we're here. We're looking at the statistics of the NRL, and we're looking at the games from the weekend. I've just got to go back to round 25. The first game was a classic. St George didn't turn up. It was at Rabbitoh's home ground. It was horrendous conditions. Surprisingly, the ball handling was superb from the Rabbitohs. They had really good completion rates that first three quarters of that half. And then we'll get to these stats now anyway, but it was 7 tries to 0. And if you ever wanted to pay St George back in a hardcore way, it's stopping them from having a slight chance of getting into the 8. But they really lost that against the Warriors the week before. South just put the sword right through the middle of their back. Ashton Ward did all the kicking, surprisingly, 6 from 7. And Jacob Host went over. Jai Gray, he was one of ours. Alex Johnson, one of ours. Tallis Duncan was our standout. Peter Manuezelas, I did say keep an eye on him and Munro. Tyron Munro was the last one to score in the 75th, but Thomas Fletcher before that. Unfortunately, Saints aren't going any further forward in this competition as far as the finals are concerned. So they'll be planning their Bali trips already, I'd imagine, and a bit of time away with the family. So let's go to the team stats of this game. The possession rate was 56% to South, only 44 to St George. Time of possession, 34 minutes to 25. Completion rate, 95%. The South Sydney, phenomenal. For Dragons, only 76. All runs meters, 2,205 for South. They ran rings around Saints by another 1,000 metres, 1,568. Phenomenal. Post-contact meters, 648 versus 590 South. Line break South, 6-1. Oh, some horrible stats here for Coach Flanagan. Tackles here, 25 breaks for South Sydney, only 13 for Saints. Average set distance, 53 metres. For South, only 41 for Saints. They're just slaughtered in the stats department here. Kick return meters, 148 for Saints, 285 for South. Wow, my goodness gracious. Just looking further down here for the kick defusal. South only had 62% kick defusal, but still more than St George with only 53% kick defusal. 11 bombs South to 7 St George. Grubbers 6-1. And I'd imagine a lot of that came down to Cody Walker, who got a bit of a run, didn't he? And set up one of Johnson's tries. Tackles made here. Now, if this is not going to gas St George, most of these players from the 17 sides, they're all fit as fiddles. Most 95% of them. But look at this, tackles made. You'd have to be Superman. 419 for Saints and only 345 needed for South. Missed tackles, 25 for Saints, only 13, so virtually half for South. Ineffective tackles, surprisingly, 5 for Saints, but 11 for South. Negative play, 12 negative plays for St George and only 5 for South. So that's all you really need to know about that game. There were some nice tries scored in the match. One superb try scored by South. And Tallis Duncan, yet again, he's been one of our outstanding bankers here. We've got him 4 times out of the last 5 matches, and he's still giving off $2.75, $3 to 1 when I first started getting him. The best thing about Tallis Duncan, he's young, he's strong as an ox, close to the line, and he can play 2 or 3 different positions. Going forward, South have got a very good player in Tallis Duncan. Okay, let's move over to the second of the matches. And this was the cracker. The 2 crackers were Penrith versus Canberra and also Storm versus Bulldogs. These 2 games were like semi-final matches, in particular the first one up at Mudgee there. It was Penrith 16, defeated by Canberra in Golden Point, and it came down to that Golden Point try to finish the match by KO Weeks, set up by Ethan Strange, with the kick that would have won Penrith a game that come off the crossbar, virtually straight into Ethan Strange's hands. Somehow 2 tacklers missed him. He put a sidestep on because he's very elusive, and off he went down the flanks. So let's have a look here and see who the top tackle count was. The top tackler here was Mitch Kenny. Now, every week I'm telling you the same news. Mitch Kenny, 50 tackles there. Phenomenal. Big Red, Corey Horsbar worked his butt off to 53. Most run meters, Brian 250 and KO Weeks 283. Most line breaks, Ethan Strange 2. One resulted in that final try and the other one in his own try. Casey McLean 1. He had an outstanding game, Casey, on a losing side. So let's go to the team stats. That's really important here. That's 2 weeks in a row where Penrith have lost by golden points. How does that affect their psyche? They still played outstanding, even though they lost. But Canberra, a serious side this year. I did have a talk to Scotty before the game and said, I wonder how Canberra are going to play against these good sides in the playoffs. You would think there'd be a little bit more pressure on the younger players, but they've been there. Although they haven't had, a lot of them haven't had the finals experience. That may be the only thing that goes against Canberra. But I hope we're looking at someone new in the final of the playoffs, in the grand final. I really do, and they showed outstanding ability to stay with Panthers for most of the game and survive the strangulation that Panthers put against most sides. So looking at the team stats here, possession 47% to Penrith, 53 Canberra. That's a big one. Time of possession 34 minutes Canberra and only 29 Penrith. Completion rate 84%, virtually 85 to both of them here. So pretty good ball handling here. And the end of the sets of 6. All runs meters. It looked like Canberra run an extra 300 metres. Their tackle breaks, 46 to Canberra and 33 to Penrith. Interesting stats going forward there for Mr. Cleary, Coach Cleary. Average set distance, 43 metres for Canberra and 38 for Penrith. I thought I'd turn this air conditioner off. It's starting to get a little bit balmy here at the moment. Give me 1 second. I think that's off now, yeah. Feels like I'm in a summer. In the summer here, it's so hot. But anyway, it's no longer. We've only got a couple of weeks away to the cool mornings. It'll still be cool, but we're going to have some really nice, hopefully dry weather football in the playoffs. Kick return meters, it looks like 248 to Canberra and 261 to Penrith. Looking at the kicking here, the kick defusal, 69% Panthers and only 23% to Canberra. That has to have Coach Stewart worried there. They really, you do leave yourself open, and there was a try on the weekend to one of the sides. I think that was one of the Sunday games. There was Brett Naden that went over from virtually from leaving a bomb. People just watch it and see where it goes, and it can go anywhere. So sometimes I think a lot of these fullbacks or the people that are copying the bombs, they really need to try and catch it rather than let it bounce freely. So that's something that Coach Stewart needs to look at going forward there. I think that could be a little bit of a chink in the armour. There was one intercept, of course, to Penrith. the errors, negative play, 8 negative plays to Canberra, but 12 to Penrith. A lot of penalties considered for Penrith. That was probably when they were running out of gas. 6 penalties to 5. And ruck infringements, 3 apiece. That's about all she wrote. They both used 8 interchanges each. It was a really, really entertaining game. And that last try that led to victory to Canberra deserves to be on your golden mantle memory, your golden mantelpiece full of memories, because you won't get much better than that from the deflected field goal which would have won Penrith the game. Amazing. Next game on the Friday was Bulldogs 14 went down narrowly by 1 converted try to Melbourne Storm, 20-14, and it was 3 tries each. Elise Katoa going over. Well, he was our banker. Ryan Pappenhausen was one of our reserves, but we moved him up because a couple of the selections didn't get the run. So we moved him up into 4th position there. So there was a double there for you. Xavier Coates also got moved up from the reserves. But we didn't have Viliami Kikau, Bailey Hayward, and Jacob Kiraz. I can't catch Kiraz, unfortunately. But anyway, let's have a look at the top tacklers here. I was going to say it could be Harry Green, but when Trent Liero's there, no. 48 tackles at Trent Liero, fantastic defence. Jacob Preston, yet again another top tackler, 40 tackles compared to Liero's 48. Okay, most run meters, Liero 135, Elise Katoa 135, and Connor Tracy at 204. Most line breaks, 2 to Kiraz and 1 to Grant Anderson, which looked like was going to be a try, but he was about 5 metres back from the line and couldn't make it. There was a couple of really good tackles there from Harry Hayes. Viliami Kikau 62. Got the fantasy points. We're not doing fantasy here, and Munster got 60, but we're not doing that here. So basically, that game really came down to the Melbourne game, and the Bulldogs game came down to the hungriest of the teams, I believe. There was something lacking from the Bulldogs' effort, I believe. Steve Crichton tried his heart out, but he had a bad night with the kicking. He only got 1 from 3, and that, in the end, is the thing that cost them. Nick Meaney got 1 penalty goal. And of course, Harry Grant got sent off, and I think he's going to do a bit of time for it. You won't see Harry, I think, until the finals. And they're going to run 2nd or 3rd in any case. I don't know whether they're going to challenge Canberra for 1st. Canberra would have to lose the next 2 matches, but I don't think that's going to happen. We'll have a look at that later. Okay, let's go to the team stats here. And it was possession 46% to the Storm, 54 surprisingly to the Dogs, but they couldn't convert it. Completion rate was 90% to Storm, very, very good, and only 75 for the Bulldogs. Bit scrappy there, doggies. All runs meters, it looks like an extra 500 metres the Bulldogs ran. Interesting. Post-contact meters, 498. The Bulldogs did well with that, and only 417 to Storm. Tackle breaks, 29 to the Storm, and 28 very even there to the Dogs. Average set distance, 31 metres for Storm, and 39 metres, a lot better for the Dogs. Kick return meters, 256 to Bulldogs, and only 91 for Storm. That's something for the coach, Melbourne coach, to have a look at there, Bellamy. Looking at the kicks here, the kick defusals. 93% kick defusal, very good by the Storm. And Cam Canterbury, only 80%. Yeah, it's a lot. There was that 140-20. It was a fantastic turning point, I believe, with Cameron Munster, the phenomenal 40-20. Effective tackles, 87% to 90 Bulldogs, 87 Storm. Ineffective tackles, 24 to the Storm and 7 ineffectives for Bulldogs. So yet again, something else for Bellamy to have a look at there. That's no good. Missed tackles were about the same. Negative play, disappointing here from the Bulldogs. They sort of run out of ideas. I'm still not 120% convinced Galvin's the man at this stage with his inexperience, especially in finals. But they've struggled, as Scotty said early in the year. They may struggle. They look like they're doing better than what they are because they haven't beaten anyone. And he was right so far over the last 5 or 6 weeks. They've really been embattled. Errors here, 14 on negative play for the Dogs and only 8 from Storm. Penalties conceded. It was 6 Bulldogs, bit of ill discipline there, and only 3 from Melbourne. And that's about it. They only used 7 interchanges each. Storm were very classy. They did things methodically. It'll be interesting to see how they go without Harry Grant next week. So let's go to the next match before we get laboured down here. And this was the first of the Saturday matches. It was a toweling for the Dolphins. However, Dolphins scored a lot of tries in the back half, especially with Conley Lemuelu. It was 58 Manly defeating Dolphins 30. And it was at 4 Pines Park. And yes, they get a lot of home ground support, and whether you want to call it favouritism from some of the decisions. I'll leave that up to you, but I tell you what, it was not the Manly side that I saw getting beaten by West Tigers the week before. It was totally different. They had the momentum back. They had everything going their way. Whatever they touched turned to gold. So let's have a look at the try scores. My goodness. It was 10 tries to 5. This was a feast if you stuck with Manly, because we had Ben Travojevic. We didn't have Luke Brooks or Lehigh Hopewadi. I did entertain Ethan Bullimore. We had him 2 weeks prior. But we had Tolotau Kola. He went over, and Tom Travojevic, we had him as a reserve. Now, strangely enough, this is the first time I've let Conley Lemuelu go. He went over in the 62nd minute and also 79th minute. Felice Kafusi barged over with pure strength in the 75th minute, and Fini Fuliaki went over in the 1st minute for the Dolphins. So it looked like Dolphins were going to come out of the stalls running and really give it to Manly. But Jeremy Marshall-King went over in the 13th as well. Luke Brooks went over twice, once in the 16th minute. Lodge scored in the 6th minute. So you knew it was going to be a try fest after that. There was 2 tries in 7 minutes. Hello. And the Travojevic brothers certainly played outstanding. Tom Turbo went over twice. I guess it was a shame for Dale Cherry Evans' 350th game not to score, but they didn't set it up for him, and he just did what he had to do. At halftime, it was 22 to 12, and they never sort of relinquished from there. Although a couple of times when Dolphins started scoring late tries, it was all over bar the shouting. It was just too late to come back. Let's go to the player stats now. I'll have a quick look at the top tackle counter here. Jake Simcombe, 44. And Kurt Donahue, yeah, he's one of my favourite forwards, 45. So fairly even there. Lehigh Hopewadi, most run meters, 251. He had a big game. Hammer, Tabuai Fado, 203 metres. Most line breaks, 4 to Lehigh Hopewadi, as I said, and 2 to Connolly Lemuelu, which led to both of his tries. Okay, let's go over to team stats. This is where it all counts. Possession here, 52% to Manly and 48% to Dolphins. And then time of possession, 27 minutes to Manly and only 25 to the Dolphins. Completion rate, 78% Manly, 75% Dolphins. So fairly even. All runs meters, 2,072 for Manly and only 1,594 for the Dolphins. Post-contact meters, 632 to Manly and 501 to the Dolphins. Line breaks, 10-9 for Manly. Tackle breaks here, 39 for the Dolphins. Well, they are an elusive side, and 30 tackle breaks to Manly. Average set distance, 54 metres there for Manly and only 44 for Dolphins. Yeah, the stats are really lining up against them. Let's go down here to kick the fusel. Kick the fusel, 58% for Manly. That's not great, but this is horrendous for Dolphins, 25% kick to fusel. So under the bombs, they really copped it. It was 4 bombs to 6 in favour of Dolphins. However, grubbers with DCE there, 4 grubbers to 2 in favour of Manly. Effective tackles, 86% to Manly and only 83% to Dolphins. Missed tackles, 30 to the Dolphins, 39 to Manly, surprisingly enough. Intercepts 1 apiece. Ineffective tackles, 32 for Dolphins and only 8 ineffective tackles for Manly. Yeah. Negative play areas, 13 for Manly, 10 for Dolphins. Manly were throwing it around like a hotcake, like the old Manly, the old entertaining Cliff Lyon days. Fantastic. That's about all she wrote there. So let's get on to the next match. Manly, they've got to hope they win their last 2 matches and results go their way to sneak in there. They sort of got a bit of a sniff once East lost, and there was a couple of other sides that lost that might have helped them. Or Dolphins lost as well, of course. So it's opened the door in the most smallest way. So the next game was the entertaining game I've felt. It was pretty high scoring as well. It was 32 points to 18. Warriors up in Seabus Stadium there, the Gold Coast, defeating Gold Coast Titans 18, so 32 to 18. We'll just have a look at the try scorers. Tino Fasamawali went over in the third. Bo Fermor. I've given up catching Bo in the 73rd minute, but no surprise to see him going over, backing up in the right. And that's how he used to play about a year ago. He'd always go over and at good odds being a forward. Brian Kelly went over in the 76th minute. Murata Niokore, he was one of ours. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck in the 16th and the 20th. Adam Pompey, well, he was our main standout banker. He went over in the 58th minute, but we didn't have Eddie Iarima Tuivasa, so we didn't have him. He's a big man too. My God, he took about 10 people over the line with him and put the ball down beautifully. Jaden Campbell had a reasonable kicking day, 3 from 3 and 5 from 5 for Tanner Boyd. At halftime, it was 18-6. Warriors always had the ascendancy in that game and never really shirked their task. Roger Tuivasa carved them up into little pieces, like that Pink Floyd song. They're going to cut you into little pieces. Sam Verrell's the top tackler here, and of course James Fisher-Harris. I don't know whether you saw the review, the press conference after the game, but James Fisher-Harris has quadriceps for biceps. Unfreaking believable. His arms are so massive, and he's not even flexing them. I wouldn't want to be tackled by him. I don't know about you, but he was the top tackler there, 34. So good luck to people who received the quadricep bicep from the tackling of James Fisher-Harris there. Brian Kelly, 1 break, 2 breaks to Tuivasa-Sheck, as I said, outstanding. Team stats here. Possession rate, it was 46% to the Titans and 54% to the Warriors. Completion rate, 70% to the Titans and 85% to the Warriors. Much better Warriors, much better handling. Well, these guys have to start playing good now. There's only 2 weeks left before they start the new competition, which is the playoffs. Everything changes then. Completion rate here, yeah, it was much better, as I said. All runs meters, 1,372 to the Titans, 1,737 to a lot more to the Warriors there. Post-contact meters, 509 for the Titans, 620 for Warriors. Line breaks, 4 to the Warriors and only 3 to the Titans. Tackle breaks here, 31 to the Titans, but 33 to the Warriors. Average set distance, 33 metres to the Titans, and 41, a lot more there for the Warriors, making ground from the scrum. Kick return metres, 201 to the Warriors, and only 103 to Titans. Well, they had no answer, did they? And once they got behind, they just couldn't claw their way out of the hole. Passing here, a lot more offloads there from Warriors. They were throwing it around like a hotcake. Receipts were a lot better too. But the kick defusal here, 69% Titans and only 33% Warriors. They need to iron that out very quickly going forward into the playoffs. Defence, effective tackles here, 87% to the Titans and 86, so fairly even there to the Warriors. Tackles made, 356 Titans and only 306. So 50 more tackles Titans had to do rather than the Warriors. That'll gas you. Fatigue always comes back to haunt you. If you look at the game the week before with Manly losing to the Tigers, they had so many repeat sets of 6 against them, and always they couldn't hold the ball, so West just kept on coming at them in wave after wave. The back half of that match, West just run a roughshod over them. It was ridiculous. But that's what's obviously happened here as well. The errors, 15 negative play errors to Titans and only 7 to the Warriors. Penalties conceded, 7-4 Warriors over Titans, and ruck infringements, 4 Titans over 1 for the Warriors. There's one guy on report for the Titans, but they don't need to worry about that going forward for their last 2 matches. And I think the news came through that Desi is gone. He was planning to leave anyway, but I think he's been replaced by Josh Hannay. I think he's taken the job. But check the NRL.com website for that official news, guys. Don't want to give you any misleading information for your own statistics. Okay, let's have a look here. The next match was Parramatta over Roosters. This was a surprise loss, but it all came down to a tackle that went horribly wrong for Sam Walker, and he smacked his head straight into the guy's knee. And the guy that I don't know exactly who it was. If I had a look at the team and study, I could tell you who it was. He was a giant, and he just got his head in the wrong place. And once Walker got taken off, East attack went out the door and so did the game. I knew that as soon as Walker had to leave the field, that was all over. At that stage, East were in the match, but once Walker got taken off, even if we have a look at the stats, which we will now, without Sammy there guiding the Roosters round, I mean, he's the reason why they had a great chance to be in the top 8 and play off into sudden death. Because of his kicking game. They've beaten some big sides over the last 3 or 4 weeks because of Sammy Walker's kicking game. But as it was, Parramatta were they're full of those young players getting really good experience. Coach Rice must have been very happy. I wasn't happy because I tipped against them, thinking Walker would get the whole game. But Jermaine Hopkins went over in the 9th minute, followed by Adokar in the 15th. And then we had James Tedesco going over in the 23rd. In the 28th, it was Josh Adokar's second try, and Mitchell Moses in the 51st minute went over. Robert Toyer for East went over in the 59th minute. In the 64th minute, the two tries of Sam Roney back-to-back, 64th and 75th. And the killer about this game is we basically let Jordan Samrani go. And we've had Moses and Samrani the last 3 weeks. And so what happens? Samrani goes over. Moses doesn't go over, but Samrani went over twice, and he was really good odds. But as it was, we had a very good, very, very good weekend with our tipping. So Lomax here, it looks like he only got 2 goals, one in the 11th and 52nd, and then Mitchell Moses took over in the 65th minute. They only got 3 from 6, so they obviously could have won by a lot more. And Hugo Savall only got 1 from 2, but Walker has been faultless with the kicks as well. You can keep on saying, well, that's your excuse, that's your excuse. Well, let's have a look at the stats now and see exactly if I was correct or not, or the stats leading up against what I'm saying. So possession here, we'll go to that in 1 second. It's one of the top tackling counters here. It was Riley Smith with 37, pretty substantial. And it looks like Luelu, but Benaya Luelu there, 46, pretty high there for the young fella. And most run meters, Billy Smith, 164. Billy, when he's off, Billy, his handling errors are awful. He had not such a good kicking handling game where he's, even though he ran around like a chook without his head cut off, boom, boom. 157 there, Dylan Brown. Yeah, I thought he played a lot better than the previous 2 weeks. Most line breaks, one to Josh Adokar and one to Tedesco. They both led to tries. Hopgood did have an outstanding match, I felt. Geimer wasn't too bad either. Let's have a look at the very important team stats here. It was possession, 53% to Parramatta, 47% to the Roosters. Time in possession, 30 minutes for the Parramatta Eels and only 26 for the Roosters. Their handling went to the pot for most of the match, actually. It was completion rate here, 85%. That's phenomenal for Parramatta, and 57%. That's where the Roosters lost it. They couldn't hold and finish their sets of 6. All runs meters here, 1,482 to Parramatta and 1,352 to Roosters. Post-contact meters, virtually the same, around about 490. Line breaks, 3-1 in favour of the Roosters. Tackle breaks, 28 tackle breaks for the Roosters and only 20 for Parramatta, but they did more with the ball, I felt. They're really starting to gel well. Looking forward to next year for Parramatta Eels. The average set distance, 38 metres to Roosters and only 31 to the Eels. Kick return metres, 183 for Roosters and 120 for Parramatta. So still some stats leading against Parramatta there, but they did have an outstanding game with those completion rates, which obviously carved the Roosters up because they couldn't hold the ball. Looking at kicking metres here, a better kicking game there from, of course, with Mitchell Moses in the side, an extra 100 kicking metres there for Parramatta. The kick defusal, 56% Roosters, 67, a lot better there for Parramatta. Bombs, 7-4 Parramatta. Grubbers, 5-0 in favour of Parramatta. That because Sam Walker is the guy that did all the grubbers. I don't know why the sides don't have a seconder. Like in theatre, they have a seconder. And if the main singer or the main act The main character can't make it. The seconder comes in. Well, they needed someone to do little grubbers here because 5-0. That's where East had to keep on just tackling, and it's cost them dearly. Probably not their best game either, all around, right across the park here. The negative plays were awful too for East, 22 as opposed to Parramatta at 11. Penalties conceded, 5-4, a lot more ill discipline there from the Roosters. Okay, so they both used their interchange bench, and there was one head injury assessment. Going forward to the next match, and it was the second last match that we're going over tonight before we have a look at the league ladder. It was the hapless Knights, 12, destroyed by Broncos, who sort of put their foot flat out on the accelerator early, took it off, put it flat out again, took it off, and then put it flat out again. And Knights were just awful. And the worst thing that happened to us, as I said to you before, we had Bradman Best the last 5 matches, and he hasn't gone over because he hasn't had a spine defeated to him. But he was lucky enough that Jermaine McEwen kicked it forward and ricocheted and allowed Bradman Best to come through and score at really good odds, which we did not have. But we did have our main backer as Katoni Staggs, and pretty much straight away, once we got Reece Walsh over the line, we did pretty well with Katoni Staggs and Paynas and Shibasaki. I was like that whether to put them in or not. Shibasaki hadn't scored for a while. But anyway, Cogger got 2 from 2. Reece Walsh kicked most of the goals except Tyson Smoothie. And Ben Hunt, for his 350th game, had a shot in the 77th minute, was successful with a 1 straight in front, only 5 from 9. So they could have even won by 50 plus there had they been on song with their kicking. But it was 9 tries to 2. It was just a procession. Leo Thompson had one of his better games and scored, along with Best. But he's off to Cronulla next year in any case. So let's go across to the top tackler here. Of course, it's Phoenix Crossland with 38 for Newcastle, and Jordan Ricky, another big defender for the Broncos there, 34. Most run meters, Dane Gagai tried his heart out, poor Dane, 164. But Dean Mariner had a blitzkrieg game and kept on getting the ball fed to him for his 2 tries, 252. Most line breaks, James Schiller. Twice when I looked at that replay this afternoon, they bombed 2 tries, and Adam O'Brien just grabbed his forehead and just looked down between his legs. It was just horrendous knowing how he felt when they bombed 2 tries like that. Josh Karapani made 3 line breaks. Let's go to the team stats, which is important, and I'm sure they're going to stack up against the Knights in a pretty bad way. Right, here we go. It was possession rate 47% to the Knights, 53, a lot more to the Broncos. Time of possession, 28 minutes to the Broncos, over 25 to the Knights. Completion rate, 65%. Knights, 78% there for the Broncos. All runs meters here, 1,910. The Broncos, as opposed to a lousy 1,432 for the Knights. Post-contact meters, 498, a lot more for the Broncos, and only 472 to the Knights. Line breaks, 5 to the Knights, 14 line breaks to Broncos. Tackle breaks here, 55 tackle breaks to the Broncos and only 40 to the Knights. Kick return meters, Broncos 205 and a lousy 118 for the Knights. Yeah, these stats are really bad. Knights were pushing the pass a little bit too much, which led to mistakes. 14 offloads to 8 there. Receipts, of course, were fairly high from both. However, the total passes, my God, they must have tried everything to crash over the Knights, because they had 256 total passes as opposed to 215 of Broncos, but Broncos did better with their set plays and what have you. Dummy passes, 33. Well, that's a lot to throw to the Knights, and they fell for quite a few of them. 33 dummy passes to 14. That's it. I just wanted to mention, I don't usually mention that stat, but I saw how lopsided it was. Kick defusal, 62% for the Knights, and both Broncos as well. Effective tackles here, 84% to the Knights and 81% to the Broncos. Tackles made, 304 for the Broncos, and an extra 40 tackles needed by the hapless Knights at 344. Missed tackles were pretty bad. 55 missed tackles for the Knights and only 40, which is still getting up there a little bit higher for the Broncos. But it was one of those games, such a high-scoring match. Ineffective tackles, 31, surprisingly, to the Broncos, and only 10 ineffective tackles for the Knights. Errors at negative play, 14 to the Knights, of course, and only 10 to the Broncos. It's pretty much all she wrote. 7 penalties conceded, though. Bit of ill discipline there in the backside from Broncos. 7-3, the penalties conceded over the Knights, and the ruck infringements, 2-0. That's about all she wrote. They virtually both used all their interchanges, except one was left on the bench for the Broncos. Let's get to the next match. Before we have a look, of course, Sharks had the bye, thank goodness. I can't catch any of those try scorers from Cronulla. I could barely get them tipped across the line either. Every time I tip them, they lose, and every time I don't tip them, they win. Just one of those bogus sides for me this year. But so have St George been the same as well. The brother and sister friggin' Shire and St George area. Okay, let's have a look here. This was the game that went down to the wire. It was 34 Cowboys over Tigers 28. I wanted Tigers to win, to make Scotty and myself at 4. It was about 5 each we would have had. But Scotty got this one, surprisingly. He tipped the Cowboys, and they had a 2 converted try lead, Tigers. I still don't know how they lost it. I really don't. It's like they just switched off and kept on looking at the clock, switched off, kept on looking at the clock. Before they knew it, there was 3 tries within 5 to 6 minutes for the Cowboys. And luckily, we had our bankers got up straight away, because we still had Jeremiah Nanai and Taylor May were our 2 standouts for both sides, the Tigers and the Cowboys. So straight away we were in the money, and then we just had to wait for Tommy Dearden to go over, Jareem Buller, and also Braden Burns we had as an emergency that I chucked in at the last minute. Jackson Purdue would have been one of our regular try scorers here as well. Though, how many can you put in there? Scott Drinkwater was not too bad with a boot, 5 from 6. And, this is where Dewey. To the point that similar to where Walker got taken from the field, but I think it lifted them. Unfortunately, he went to the hospital. We haven't had any information on poor Adam Dewey on that really bad facial fractures and concussion. He just tackled a big giant man, and I think it cracked his cheekbone, and God knows how his face looked when they had to call an ambulance. But hopefully Adam's all right, and that it wasn't a season-ending. I'd say it would be, though. If you got facial fractures, you really can't come back that quick. Now they've really haven't got a chance to make the final 8, particularly if the Roosters and the other embattled side there, Dolphins, actually win their games this coming weekend. So Epaw was fairly good with a boot. He got 4 from 5. Let's have a look at the top tackle count before we go to the ladder. It was, and some team stats. Reuben Cotter, 42. He is a work animal. And Epaw, very good, 48 top tackles there. Most run meters during Buller, 212, an outstanding match. One of them was one of the best tries I think I've ever seen. A 90-metre try from the Tigers with a flick pass and amazing speed. And Jereen Buller was part of it. 198 there for Braden Burns. He had a big game too. Shame he's not going to be playing finals football. Taylor May had an outstanding match. 3 line breaks to 2 over Semi Valami. Semi Velame, sorry. There is Valavaitai and Valemi. It's hard to get all these names out, ladies and gentlemen, especially when they're playing alongside of each other. One's the winger, one's the centre. Okay, let's look at the team stats before we go to the final part of our show tonight. And we'll be doing the ladder, of course. So all run meters, let's have a look at completion rates. That's important. Possession here, 52% to the Cowboys, 48 to the Tigers. It wasn't Leichhardt, and that hill was full, and they had a lot of home ground support, but it wasn't enough for them. They just switched off with 10 minutes to go and let North Queensland in 3 times. Time possession, 27 minutes there to Cowboys and only 26 to the Tigers. Completion rate, 76 Tigers, 79 Cowboys. Dearden had 2 outstanding weekends in a row and also went over twice. All runs meters here, 1,699 for the Tigers, exactly the same for the Cowboys. Isn't that strange? Line breaks 6 to the Tigers and 6 to the Cowboys. There was really nothing in this match until the last 10 minutes. And a lot of players would have been devastated that they couldn't keep that winning momentum happening for the Tigers with a chance, slim chance of getting into the 8. Kick the refusal here, 45% to the Tigers and 45 exactly the same to the Cowboys. However, there was that incident where there was a big up and under, and I think, was it Naden? I can't remember now. We won't go back and go over that, testing our memories at this stage of the evening. Missed tackles was 40 apiece. As I said, they were very similar, these statistics here. 310 tackles made for the Cowboys and 350 for an extra 40 for the Tigers. That probably caught them there in the last 10 minutes looking at that. Ineffective tackles, 10 Tigers, 14 to the Cowboys. Intercepts 1-0 to the Cowboys. And the missed tackles were exactly the same. Errors in negative play, it was 10 apiece. So there was dead set nothing in this game. Penalties were 4-3, and it's a shame that Tigers are done for the year, but they might show a bit of pride and win those last 2 matches. Let's now, before we go, have a look, and just before we go over there, anyone that's joined us here on Every Point's a Winner, we will be calling quite a few of the free-to-air straight off the TV here in the studio. We'll be calling free-to-air Scotty and myself, covering most of the final matches for those 2 Blitzkrieg weekends of the first and second weeks. And I'll do what I can, and if he can't do it, I'll be filling in for Scotty. But and I will get a couple of sideline eyes as well to help us out with the statistics. But yeah, really looking forward to that. So if you know anyone that wants to hear the free-to-air calls, and I think we're doing pretty well. Last time we did really well for the State of Origin 2 and State of Origin 3, and Scotty helped us out with that one as well. So well done there, Scotty. and he's well on his way to winning another Monster Cup. Now that he's 6 points clear with 2 rounds to go. I need 2 perfect rounds, 8 winners out of 8 to get the 2 points bonus, and with the last week as well. But how do you do it? There's so many surprise victories with these sides that are battling out to get into the top 8 and the top 4. Oh yeah, so let's go across here and look at the ladder before we go. There's the draw, there's the ladder. Okay, so Raiders here. Raiders are 42 points in first, 2 points ahead of Storm in second on 40. Now, here's the problem. It's definitely between those two for the minor premiership, but Raiders, I can't remember whether they've used all their buys. We'll have to worry about that later. But they've virtually only got to win the next one because I think they've still got a better for and against, yes. Storm are 4 points in front of the Bulldogs, who are third with 36. So that's 2 weeks worth of wins away. So Bulldogs will not finish any higher than second, or any higher than third there. They won't get any higher. So 36. Warriors in 2 points behind them in fourth. That's very interesting too. So depending on who the Dogs have got to play. The Broncos are 2 points behind the Warriors in fifth. So that looks pretty solidified now. But the Sharks are breathing down their neck on a less for and against in sixth position. After that bye, they're both on 32. Then the very interesting fact here. Panthers on the verge of scraping into the 8 as the 8th side, especially if they have another Golden Point loss. That's 2 weeks in a row. They're back to 7th now. They're 1 point behind the Sharks. And however, this is where they'll probably still hold on to 7th. Because they're 3 points in front of the Roosters and actually 5 points in front of the Dolphins. So, no, Panthers, I think, will finish in 7th, possibly 6th if Sharks chuck in one of their inconsistent games, possibly. So we need to keep an eye on that, especially with a for and against. Now, so behind the Panthers in 8th position, rounding out the 8 is Roosters, but yet they're 2 points in front of the Dolphins, who are 9th on 26. Now, equal to that, after that surprise win on the weekend, Sea Eagles, 26, along with the Dolphins. So that's where they could technically get in, but they've got to rely on Roosters to foul up over the last 2 weekends. Tigers here on 11th. They're 2 points behind the Seagulls, so they're done and dusted, yeah. Cowboys, 1 point behind the Tigers in 12th. Dragons, 1 point behind the Cowboys in 13th. Eels, equal to Dragons, but on a less for and against there in 14th position. Same points, 22. Rabbitohs also 22 in 15th. 16th, only 2 points in front of Titans for the wooden spoon are the Knights. I'm happy for the Knights to get the wooden spoon on this performance this year. But Titans have been pretty ordinary as well, so they'll probably round that out for Desi Hasler's boys. They're on 16 points, 2 points behind the Knights. So, ladies and gentlemen, please like, subscribe, make a comment. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. And so join us here. I think the first game will be Thursday. Haven't had a look at it yet. I've had so much football all weekend. It'll be good to have a little break over the next couple of days. But thanks for joining us. It was a lot of homework done and dusted. Hopefully you worked out from your statistics why your side won or why your side lost. So I'll see you on Thursday, and we'll give you all the best tips here and put us another $150 in front for a small minimal outlay. Bet responsibly and be nice to your mother. Bye-bye from Maxwell.